Greetings! Mantaray79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is the standard formats: Dragon Empires, Dragonic Overlord the End with Dragritter Halb. Alrighty then, let's get started. First, let's get on with the right deck. And now for the right deck. For the cards in this right deck, we have Grade 0, Lizard Runner Undu, Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar, Grade 2, Dragonite Nehalem, and Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord. The Grade 0 starting unit, Lizard Runner Undu. Like any other starting unit in the D standard format, he features only one skill. When rated on top of, if you're the second to go to Grade 1, you get to draw a card. The Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar. His skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, when rated on top of by Dragonite Nehalem, by paying a counterblast of 1, if the cost has been paid, you may search your deck for any Grade 1 unit and add it to your hand. So ideally, this first skill will allow you to add maybe a Perfect Guard or any other Grade 1 that's mainly used for your deck's later game strategy. The Grade 2, Dragonite Nehalem. His skills are, the first skill, when ridden on top of by an Overlord, you may move Nehalem from your soul to the rear guard. So with this first skill, as long as you manage to ride an Overlord like Dragonic Overlord or Dragonic Overlord the End on top of Nehalem, you'll be able to secure yourself a rear guard Nehalem whose second skill will support your Vanguard Overlord later in the game. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord. His skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, whenever it attacks an opponent's rear guard, the attack cannot be blocked by your opponent with any cards in their hand. So with this first skill, you can more or less have a almost absolute attack on any opponent's rear guard, since your opponent cannot use any cards from their hand to guard with. And the second skill of Dragonic Overlord, as a Vanguard, once per turn, after this unit's attack hits, you may counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may restand your Vanguard Overlord with the additional cost of reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 1. So with the second skill, it's more or less a standard restanding ability for the Dragonic Overlord series. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's right deck. Next, let's get on to the main deck. And here we are with the main deck. For the main deck, let's first start with the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1s in this deck, we have 4 Dragritter, Halbs, 2 Acute Dragon, Europhus, and 4 Twin Buckler Dragons. The Grade 1 Dragritter Halb, one of the main cards in this deck. A promo card from the monthly Bushiroad magazine, August 2022 issue. Its skills are, the first skill, when this card will be discarded from your hand to pay for the cost of your Vanguard of Overlord and its card's name ability, it may be regarded as discarding 2 cards. So with this first skill, when you want to use a Dragonic Overlord's ability that requires you to discard cards in your hand, Halb can be treated as 2 cards when discarded. And the second skill, when this card is discarded from your hand for the cost of your Vanguard with Overlord and its card name ability, you may then call this card from your drop zone to your back row rearguard circle, and during that turn, it gets plus 5,000 power. So with this second skill, it more or less works together with the first skill. When discarded for the hand cost ability for a Dragonic Overlord card, then you can superior call Dragritter Halb from your drop zone to the back row rearguard circle, and during that turn, Halb will get plus 5,000 power, making him a 13,000 power booster from the back row. The Grade 1, Acute Dragon, Europhus. Its skill is, as a rear guard, when it attacks or boosts, you may Soul Blast 1. If the cost has been paid, then this unit gets plus 5,000 power for each of your other grade 1 or less rear guards on your field during that battle. So with this unit, when you attack or boost of it with a mere Soul Blast of 1, it gets plus 5,000 power for every other grade 1 or 0 rear guard on your field, making it a very powerful attacker and a powerful booster. The Great One, Twin Buckler Dragon, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When used to guard with, you may discard 1 card from your hand. If the cost isn't paid, you may completely block 1 enemy attack. But like every other D standard format Perfect Guard, it features an additional ability. When used to guard with, if you have less than 2 cards in your hand, you may Perfect Guard without paying any hand cost. So as long as you have less than 2 cards in hand when you guard with Twin Buckler, it'll be a no cost Perfect Guard of its own skill. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s in this deck, we have 4 Burning Horn Dragons, 4 Berserk Dragons, 2 Dragonite Nehalems, and 3 Steel Bullet Duststorm Ethans. The Grade 2 Burning Horn Dragon, its skills are, the first skill, when placed on the rear guard circle, you may counterblast 1. If the cost has been paid, you may check the top 7 cards of your deck for an Overlord and add it to your hand. And in the chance that you fail to get any Overlords by this first skill, you may countercharge 1. So of the first skill of Burning Horn Dragon, it's more or less a Dragonic Overlord Searcher. When called and counterblasting 1, you may check the top cards of your deck for an Overlord and add it to your hand. And the best part about this first skill, it's refundable. In the off chance that you fail to get any cards by the first skill, you begin countercharge 1, thus undoing the counterblast 1 that you used to pay for the first skill. And the second skill of Burning Horn Dragon, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard Overlord attacks, then during this turn, Burning Horn gets plus 5,000 power. With this second skill, Burning Horn can also serve as a front row attacker for the Dragonic Overlord series. And the best part is, the second effect is also stackable, since the Dragonic Overlord series specializes in restanding and attacking multiple times. It's possible to continue adding more power to Burning Horn in your front row, as long as you can restand your Vanguard and attack again. The Grade 2 Berserk Dragon, its skill is, as a rear guard, whenever it attacks, if your Vanguard is an Overlord, it gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the battle, and a skill, by counterblasting 1, if the cost has been paid, you may retire 1 of your opponent's Grade 2 or less rear guards. So with these skills, Berserk Dragon serves as a 15,000 point attacker for the Overlord series and also a rear guard retirer. The Grade 2 Dragonite Nehalem, its skill is, the second skill, as a rear guard, once per turn, if your Vanguard is an Overlord, you may Soul Blast 1. If the cost has been paid, during that turn, the Nehalem who paid for the Soul Blast and your Vanguard gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So with this second skill, it's a good way to not only make your rear guard Nehalem a 15,000 point attacker, but also making your Vanguard Dragonic Overlord a bit stronger to make for its additional attacks. The Grade 2 Steel Bullet Duststorm Ethan, its skill is, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard's attack hits, either on an opponent's Vanguard or rear guard, you may pay the cost of retreating Ethan from your rear guard. If you've done so, you may draw 1 card and countercharge 1. So by my opinion, this Grade 2 is more or less an improved version of the D standard format's Dragon Monk Gojo, since not only does it let you countercharge 1, but also draw an additional card, making it a good way to not only give yourself more counterblasts to use your skills with, but to also restock your hand with more cards for offensive and defensive purposes. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's Grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we have 3 Dragonic Overlord the Ends and 3 Penetrate Dragon Tribash. The grade 3 Dragonic Overlord the End, one of the main grade 3s to ride in this deck. His skills are, the first skill is a Vanguard. During your turn, if Dragonic Overlord is in your soul, then Dragonic Overlord the End gates plus 5,000 power and his drive check cannot be reduced during that turn. And the second skill of Dragonic Overlord the End as a Vanguard, once per turn, after attacking, by counterblasting one and discarding 2 cards from your hand. If this cost has been paid, you may restand your Vanguard at the additional cost of reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 1. But with this first skill that I already mentioned before, as long as you've got an Overlord in the End soul, the -1 drive check after restanding won't be counted. So with this, you'll be able to have 2 Vanguard attacks with twin drive each time. And the grade 3 Penetrate Dragon Tribash, his skill is, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard's attacks, and if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards on their field, you may move Tribash into your soul. If you've done so, then during that battle, your Vanguard gets +1 critical. So with Tribash, he's a good way to not only restock your soul, but also a good way to give your attacking Vanguard an extra critical to have a little more pressure or possibly finish the game on that move. As long as you've managed to clear out your opponent's rear guards beforehand, making Tribash a good card for, like I said before, restocking your Vanguard soul or to increase your damage output by 1 critical. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's grade 3 lineup. Next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1. Dragon Deity of Resurgence, Dragvita, over trigger. 4. Burning Flail Dragons, critical triggers. 3. Conduct Spark Dragons, critical triggers. 4. Flare Veil Dragons, draw triggers. 2. Cure Flare Draco Kids, heal triggers. And 2. Stealth Fiend Amaviras, heal triggers. The grade 0, over trigger, Dragon Deity of Resurgence, Dragvita, the over trigger for the Dragon Empire nation. Like any other over trigger, it features the same activation. When revealed during a drive check or a damage check, you can then give one of the units on your field 100 million power, and then by removing from play your over trigger, you can draw a card. But for Dragvita, he features an additional ability. When revealed during your drive check, you may restand one of your Vanguards, which is, so this second ability, it's more or less a good way to get your Vanguard an additional attack, which goes well with the Dragonic Overlord series, which specialize in multiple attacks in your from your Vanguard. The grade 0, critical trigger, Burning Flail Dragon. His skill is, as a rear guard, after boosting, you may move Burning Flail from your rear guard to your soul. If you've done so, you may choose 1 unit on your field and it gets plus 2,000 power till the end of the turn. So with Burning Flail Dragon, it's a good way to restock your soul and also to give one of your remaining units on your field a little extra power. The grade 0, draw trigger, Flare Veil Dragon. His skill is, when used to guard with, if your Vanguard is grade 3, then during the guard, Flare Veil Dragon gets plus 5,000 shield. So as long as you've managed to ride to grade 3 before guarding with this card, Flare Veil can then serve as a 10,000 point shield from your hand. The grade 0, heal trigger, Cure Flare Draco Kit. His skill is, when used to guard against an attack of critical 2 or more, and if the attacking unit's critical was raised by any other means besides trigger effects or base critical, then during the guard, Cure Flare Draco Kit gets plus 15,000 shield till the end of the battle. So, more or less, as long as you've used it to guard against an opponent who's risen their attacking unit's critical either by skill or card effect, as long as it's not by trigger effect or if their critical was not 2 as a base, then Pure Filler Draco Kit can become a 25,000 point shield on its own as long as the requirements has been filled. The Grade 0, Heal Trigger, Stealth Fiend, Amavira. Her skill is, when used to guard against an opponent's attack that has attacked twice or more, she gets plus 15,000 shield till the end of turn. So, for Amavir, when you use to guard against an opponent's unit that has attacked twice or more during that turn, she becomes a 25,000 point shield, making her a good defense against opponents' decks that specialize in restanding and attacking multiple times, like maybe Bastion or Bruce or fellow Overlord users, for example, making her a good way to fight against opponents that rush you by restanding and attacking multiple times. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1 over trigger, 7 critical triggers, 4 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And with that, we've just about covered all the cards in the main deck. And with that, I've just about finished explaining the deck's build and card effects. Next, let's get on to this deck's main playstyle. For the playstyle of this deck, first we just have to ride the ride line normally from Grade 0 Undo to Grade 1 Bar, Grade 2 Nehalem, Grade 3 Dragonic Overlord to Classic, moving Nehalem from the Soul to the rear guard. Then on your next turn, cross ride to Dragonic Overlord the end. Then on your front row, try to secure at least 1 Acute Dragon Aerophus. Then during the battle phase, when you attack with Dragonic Overlord the end, and when you use its skill to restand by counterblasting 1 and discarding 2 cards in your hand, try to secure yourself a Dragritter Halb in your hand beforehand. So when it's time to pay for the end's hand cost, simply discard Halb, who is treated as 2 cards when discarded. Then using his second skill after discarded, superior call him from the drop zone to your rear guard, plus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. And then, when it's time to attack with Acute Dragon Aerophus, Soul Blasting 1, then you may give him plus 5,000 power for every other Grade 1 you have in the field, thus making it a good card to use with the Dragritter Halbs, who are superior called after being discarded for Dragonic Overlord the end and Dragonic Overlord skills, thus giving yourself the chance to secure Grade 1s on your rear guard during the battle phase, giving Aerophus a little more extra power for every other Grade 1 in the field. And so that's about the playstyle of this deck. Try to have Acute Dragon Aerophus in your rear guard, then secure yourselves Dragritter Halb in your hand when it's time to use either Dragonic Overlord or Dragonic Overlord the end skills to restand by discarding cards in your hand. Try to discard Halb from your hand for their own restanding costs, thus allowing you to superior call them to your rear guard after being discarded, and thus giving Aerophus a major power boost from your front row or possibly back row. And with that, this just about explains the deck's main playstyle. And with that, I've just about pretty much covered the deck's main deck build, the card effects, and the main playstyle meant to be used with this deck. So first off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.